So, of course, it's the conversation outspoken and opinionated. It's your host Edwin Maya. Today, it's just one of those days. We're gonna have this conversation. We were scheduled to have Mr. Washington on today, but just based on stuff that's been happening within the world, within America, we decided to just switch things up. But one of the topics that I've really been touching, I would say, that has really been on my heart, and just some of my friends and people that I've actually spoken to over the last couple of weeks, has been mental health within the Black community. This is a conversation I would normally don't have. This is a conversation that is not, I would say, it's not talked about in the community. And one of the main purposes and one of the main aims of me even starting this podcast was to start conversations on topics that we don't have within the Black community, within the African community, within minorities communities, and all that kind of stuff like that. So today we're basically going to have a conversation. I'm asking those who are watching, if you have questions, you can send it in. But it's going to be really an informal conversation with three of my friends. I have C.GLenn Okoro, who's from Canada. I have Zainab Adebayo, who's from New York City. And we also have Veronica Mills, who's currently in Tanzania. And we're hoping that she will join us. But if she doesn't join us, we will hold the ground for her, but we're waiting for her. But before we get started, I just want to give context to this show. So I have this video that I want us to watch. So if you guys, like I said, don't forget, this is a live show. And also, we're in quarantine. So I'm in this place all by myself, and I'm not that tech savvy. So please, just bear with me. And
do you sleep too long? Or maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Do you lack interest or concentration? Have you been forcing your happiness? Have you ever considered your mental health? Because those are three common symptoms to the start of depression. Mental health concerns have been on a high rise in society in itself, but not in the Black community. Mental health in the Black community has been frowned upon for decades. Trauma has scarred Black people for centuries. Slavery put Black people in the mind frame to denounce their pain as a survival skill. It is a scientific fact that trauma and mental illness can live in the body and can be passed down genetically. It is proven that Black people are 20% more likely to experience severe mental health issues, and young Black people are 25% more likely to suffer PTSD. Today, the Black community still shames each other for even letting their feelings out. It is considered weak. That needs to change for our further generations. Those percentages need to reduce. We should get more people to be comfortable with speaking about their emotions, giving free and frequent therapy sessions to others, and supporting everyone with their journey in mental health. Please be more aware of your actions and your mental health. Be humble and accept the help you need for your loved ones and your children.
okay. So we're back. I hope you guys got some context of the conversation. I hope you're able to, just understand exactly what we're going to talk about today. So I will bring in my guest. I will start off with C.GLenn. Welcome to the conversation again. It's good to have you. Okay, good to have you. Can you just tell the people, where you're from, what you do?
Ooh. Hi everyone, I'm C.GLenn Okoro. Obviously, like you just said, I'm based in Toronto, Canada, originally from Liberia, and I work in construction project management. That's pretty much what I do. I am not an expert on mental health issues, but I do have a lot of background and history with the subject, having suffered some, issues in the past. And yeah, happy to share my experiences, talk about give my perspective on, how things are evolving, and how I believe, people should approach mental health issues.
Okay, and then we have Miss Zainab at the bottom.
Thank you for having me back again. So excited to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's always good to have you.
Oh, stop.
Always a joy.
No, I'm Zainab Adebayo. I am based in Brooklyn, New York. I work for a public relations consulting firm, and we specialize in healthcare. So I have a bit of a, I guess you could say, career and educational background in mental health, especially like health equity within the United States.
Okay, great. So what I like to do, of course, everybody know what I like to do is to give context on exactly what is it we're going to talk about. I always like to put myself first. So 2 3 years ago, I was going through an episode. I was having issue in my personal life. Personally, I was having issue at work. There were a lot of things happening at once. With all that struggle, I literally saw myself going down a rabbit hole. Basically, I couldn't sleep at night. I needed a little shot to go to sleep. I will say that. Yes, I did. And I literally, if I didn't take that shot, I won't go to sleep. And so I needed that. But what really, really, really brought it home for me was I was driving on 270 and I got pulled over. And literally, I cried like somebody killed me. Like somebody close to me had died. That's how that experience. And I was just like, what's going on? In that moment, a friend called me, was just like, what's going on? I was like, I don't know. It's too emotional for me. Told me where to go. I went to a hospital, triaged me and everything, met with the mental health counselor, and I was diagnosed as manic depressant. I was extremely depressed. I knew the signs and everything, but there was nobody to talk to. I didn't have a conversation with anybody about it. I kept it to myself and I dealt with it, but I was able to deal with it. I was able to understand it in a different way. And so maybe through this conversation, I'll be able to really understand how I was able to overcome certain things. But for that, I just want us to go directly to Glenn. You know, I know there is a context, there's a conversation we had while we started to do this was based on a context that you were talking about when it comes to mental health and how people compartmentalize mental health and the things that people do, you know, to just I don't even know, like to make it not known. Like if we can just start
Yeah.
with you, just carry us through
Um,
this conversation.
okay, so my thing, mental health issues have started coming to the foreground because, for a long time they've been left unattended, so people go through different struggles in life. And if you look at the way the body is composed biologically, right, there's different chemical reactions going on at any given time, right? So love is a chemical reaction, sadness is a chemical reaction, hunger is a chemical reaction, right? And things like depression, anxiety, right? You get external stimuli or sometimes internal stimuli, right? And then that sets off a reaction, right? And that reaction, in the case of mental health issues, happens in the brain. And when it's left unfettered for a long time, it can start to yield physical symptoms like the one you experience in the car. A lot of people go through instances where they have panic attacks. Some people I've heard, faint. Some people obviously, suffer from things like palpitations. I've had issues of palpitations, heart issues, and I spent a lot of money going to hospitals getting tested only to find out it was like chronic anxiety. Not chronic anxiety, sorry, like acute anxiety, which I was able to scale over, gladly. But my thing is, it's that understanding that sort of brought us to where we are now, and it's become sort of a mainstream thing to talk about mental health issues, and the context of mental illness. But if you look back at how we were raised, how we grew up, mental illness was typically revered for those people who were quote unquote out of their minds, right? So those guys will all slip us in the streets, walking aimlessly to nowhere. Some of them probably ain't got no clothes on. They have to be restrained and then taken to a psychiatric facility, right? And now with the evolution of all the talk about mental health, a lot of things that come up pretty much refer to how our mental states exist and navigate our natural or normal life stressors, right? How we cope with what are the circumstances we have to deal with in life, and people respond to circumstances differently. That was my thing, right? And now it's become sort of mainstream where it's everyone's claiming, oh, I have a mental health issue, or my mental health needs to be this mental health, that. Like sometimes you're just mad, you're not depressed, right? You're just, depression has a list of symptoms, that you could actually have. And people who are depressed, actually are going through bad things, right? But because, and this was one of the things I was saying the last time, is, because you have people merging mental health issues with mental illnesses into like the same category, of where, oh yeah, you have this problem, you need to see a psychiatrist, you have this problem, you need to see us, and then everyone's talking about it. It's become such in one way, like a stigma, where people look, where people turn up a nose or turn up an eye if they hear, oh, you have a mental illness or you have a mental problem, because it's being all bundled together, right? And what that causes is a lot of people over the years have refused to, or just stayed back from sharing their experiences, or putting their issues out there, because they don't want to be stigmatized. And that's easily how it goes, under the radar. And then people, get bogged down, or you have all these things accumulate and then have these unwanted reactions on your physical being.
Okay, so Zainab.
I definitely agree with a lot of the things that you're saying, Glenn. I feel like the pandemic really brought to light the conversation about mental health. I think that people probably always had issues mentally going on, but now that we were stuck in our home for, now it's a year. I mean, it's been a year since like last week. Now the conversation is being had about like how people feel, and like we're talking about our feelings. And it's unfortunate that a pandemic had to happen in order for people to feel more comfortable talking about their feelings. I know with me, I was never really open about my feelings until like a lot of my friends and close family members were like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. Like, how do I deal with this? And I'm like, okay, wait, like a lot of the things that they're describing about how they're feeling, I'm also feeling this way as well. And then when I went to my doctor and I spoke to her about it, like she obviously diagnosed me with anxiety and then referred me to a psychiatric clinic. And then I spoke to my mom about it, and being African, she's like, no, God forbid, don't wish that on yourself. And it's crazy because she's in a health field. So you would never, like, I would never think that she would say something about that until you like obviously hear it from your own kids. But I think that they've had this preconceived notion, like you mentioned, when you think or see mental health, you see someone streaking down the street that's naked. But it's like, that's not the new picture or what represents mental health now. Mental health could look like me, mental health could look like you. Like, we are now creating this new image of like what mental illness or like having some issues with your mental looks like. And I think it's great that we're now having these conversations about it, because more people are now feeling more comfortable to like step up and say, okay, this is what I have going on. And everyone can like come together as a community and provide resources, so you don't feel like, you're being left out on your own. Because I know that the suicide rate has definitely increased tenfold since the beginning of the pandemic, which is absolutely crazy. But I mean, it's, in a way, I know it's going to like cause controversy. It's understandable. People have been locked up in their household for a year. And I think it's like, you have to think about it. This is how people in prison feel like. People in solitary confinement feel like they have to sit in a small cubicle box without being able to leave their house for a certain amount of time. And you're going to get all those issues that you're having is just going to bottle up, and you're going to explode on the wrong person. So I think we should just admit that we have an issue and then seek help, rather than it resorting down the path that we don't want it to resort down, which is unfortunate, like loss of life.
And I think it's very important, and we need to put context on this particular situation, because coming from the African culture, coming from our parents who, when you talk about, like Glenn mentioned earlier, when you say someone have a mental issue, we direct define it's straight to craziness, schizophrenia, madness. I mean, that's where it goes. But then there are people who can have some level of anxiety. That's a mental state. The depression is a mental state. They move from one, because I think what I have noticed about myself is that I move from one emotional state to the other constantly during the day. Does that mean I'm bipolar? Does that mean I'm crazy? But it's just my emotions. I think like there are some, when the weather is bad, we have certain kinds of emotion. Like maybe you don't want to be bothered with nobody. Maybe you don't want to talk to nobody. Maybe you don't want to go out. But I think like Zainab said, because of the pandemic, it has made us to become in tune with our surroundings and also in tune with our feelings. So when you have sat home for 12 months, probably maybe had enough Zoom calls, you're done with it. And so you sit there and you probably start to realize, okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Why am I so snappy today? But guess what? You probably have been snappy all the time. But because our life was always on the run, we had so many things to do, we didn't really realize that the fact that you went to get gas and somebody and the other person didn't want to leave the gas pool, and you got ready for sure and just drove off, you really didn't look at it back then as an issue. You just went to a different gas station and got gas. But during this pandemic, where now you can sit down and realize, I'm like, okay, could I just have sat there and waited and get gas? Why did I get so flustered and so upset and I had to drive away to go spend another 5 or 10 minutes just to get to another gas station when I could have them spend the 5 or 10 minutes just sit there waiting for that person to leave? And so I think all of these things have happened within this year, within how many months we've been home, to really get us to understand that these conversations need to be had. We have those who have kids, their kids are also traumatized with this stuff. And then there are a lot of life events that have happened that have really traumatized us, that have actually taken us, like I said, from one emotional state or one emotional level to the other. And so as Black people, I think we are really, really great at hiding our feelings. Like, I think it's extremely, I don't even know how to get it out, but I think as Black people, as a Black community, it's really been a thing where, Zainab, how are you? I'm okay. Oh, okay. And you just keep on moving. But what I have learned is to ask, how are you doing? And the person said, okay, but how are you really doing? And then you get feedback. You start to get other questions. And I say that because I have a friend who had a baby during COVID, and she had COVID twice. And she had a baby. So we're talking about post-traumatic stress, lost her dad, I think, right before COVID, had a baby, and got COVID. And when you ask her, hey, how are you? She's like, oh, I'm fine. I'm like, no, you're not. What's going on? She's like, no, you're not fine. What's going on? And then we started to have a conversation, a text message back and forth. By the time you look, we like been talking for hours because there is a lot of things that are going on within the person that we're really not addressing. So the fact that I just want to put it out for Zainab, like the fact that, you know, you had this conversation with your mom, I don't look at it in the sense where, you know, it's a conversation with my mom. Why did my mom feel that way? What triggered her to respond in the way she responded? Is it just the norm, or are there triggering factors that made her to respond the way she respond? And I think I want us to really look at that, like the things that make us respond or have certain emotions that we didn't really focus on before, and now we're looking at it. So Glenn, you can just jump in.
You know, a few things to cover. One, I know you're talking about emotional states, mental states, mental issues, mental illnesses. I think there's a need to you know, put all these things, you know, distinguish all these things, right? Because what I feel happens a lot these days is that everybody just compounds everything, you know. When it comes to Black people and mental health issues, especially Black people in the Western world, right? You know, there's a lot of things that Black people, as Black people in the Western world, have to deal with that other Black people don't typically have to deal with. You don't have such high cases of depression, back in Africa, that from my experience, right, as much as you hear about it here. Not that people aren't going through stuff. And I think most of my depressive states have been there,
Yeah.
compared to here. So I understand that, people go through things, but how they respond to it is different, primarily based on their context, right?
Yes.
There was a study back, I can't remember the year or the exact study, but what it went to show was that most of the happiest countries, or the countries with some of the highest, it's called Human Development Index. So Human Development Index, some of the countries with the highest rates, right, where meaning that people are, happy or living good enough lives, right? Some of those countries had higher rates of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
You would think like some of the highest rates of suicide come from the Nordic countries, right? You would imagine that they should all be living extremely well. But what it served to prove, or what the theory stated, was that basically the sense of isolation, dealing with an issue, right, can further spur it out into getting bigger or more, convoluted, right? And then you have people who everyone around them seemingly is having a great time,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the ones going through whatever they're going through alone. I don't think, a lot of people on the outside, like Zainab was talking about people in jail. I don't think a lot of people on the outside, you know, have, obviously we've not experienced anything compared to what people in jail are going through, but they're going through every day, right?
Yeah.
They're not particularly jumping off the ledge, or trying to kill themselves that often. I'm not quoting statistics here, right? But it's more contextual. So if you're in a space where everyone is seemingly having a bad time, it becomes, a rite of passage, right? If it feels like, okay, we're all going through this together. In Africa, when everybody else catching hard time, you're catching hard time just with them. So okay. But
Well,
here, you can't pay your bills, you can't get the care you need, you don't got your insurance right, your car refused to work, then everybody else's car is working. Your boss is calling to find out why can't you do this? They're cutting your light off. All these things are happening to you in isolation, right? It helps to compound whatever it is you're going through, and that could lead you down a slippery slope towards mental health issues, and further down to what I'll consider mental health illnesses. Because I think mental health issues can lead you to illnesses where those reactions force out, physical symptoms of something going wrong. However, going back, I'm not of the school of thought that everything should be bucketed into that mental health issue,
okay.
because people tend to abuse it a lot. Everybody now is like, oh yeah, my mental health. I mean, it's good to care about your mental health and talk to people. It's good to have friends, or if you don't have friends, get a shrink, somebody. It's good to express yourself, or journal, or talk. But not everything you're going through is a mental health issue. Sometimes you're just mad, sometimes you're just sad, sometimes you just feel anger. Is a human state. Every human will most likely feel it in their lives. Like, you cannot go through life coasting all the time, right? You can't go through life happy all the time. It's, I mean, near impossible, right? You're going to experience those fluctuations. Serotonin levels are going to go up. Serotonin levels are going to go down. Based on external factors. Feeling sad is a human state. It's almost like you find a lot of people now, and I don't know if they're just doing it for clout, right? They're almost seemingly avoiding experiencing human emotion. They don't be angry, they don't be upset. Oh, this person upset me, my mental stuff. No, you're just mad that you can't get what you want, or stuff's not happening for you. You're not really going through, quote unquote, stuff that affects people and leads them down the path of, so that's one thing, I want to clearly break it up. And then with regards to, like, the history around how we've been conditioned to look at these issues, our backgrounds and our understanding, it is what it is. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sure 100 years ago, mental health issues was not really a thing, because
No.
it really wasn't, right? People had more, quote unquote, important things to worry about than their mental states. They understood, okay, you're feeling bad. Unless you are actually going off the wall, it wasn't that major an issue, right? Because people were dying from wars, people were being killed in the streets, or bad things were really happening. There was famine and stuff. But now we have more. We exist in a world where there's more, where pretty much all our needs are supposed to be met. So when we fall out of that gap of where our needs are supposed to be met, we start to feel some type of way, which those feelings are a bit negative, and we yearn to get rid of them. So you have all these pair-ons of, people in any blessed state just screaming, "Oh, I'm depressed." You are not depressed. You are mad. Drink some water, sleep it off. Tomorrow, wake up, stop working, and continue. No, seriously. Sometimes you're just mad. And sometimes I want to tell people, I'm like, you're not, stop making it hard for those who are actually depressed.
I agree.
Depressed, they're just, you water it down for people who actually have serious issues.
Thank you. But that brings Zainab in.
So I want to actually clarify a few things that you said, Glenn, and you can also feel free to chime in. But I think the problem stems from when we're younger, right? So whenever you're sad or you're mad, it's usually the following question is why, right? It's never usually what are the things that are making you feel this way? Okay. So if I'm sad, if you ask me like, why, like, okay, I'm sad, right? It's like, okay, well, what are the things that are making you feel sad? Either it's like, I can't pay my bill. I can't do this. I didn't eat the food that I wanted to eat today. So then by listing the things that are making me feel sad, you can then speak to me and decipher, okay, this shouldn't make you feel this way because X, Y, and Z. So a lot of the times people are just saying like, I'm sad, I'm mad, and then lead on to like, I'm depressed, because they don't know how to break down the things that are making them feel this way, to sort of kind of analyze like, okay, like this shouldn't really make you feel this way because these are easily solvable things and these are how you can solve them, because we're so used to asking why. It feels like an attack, like, okay, like, damn, I shouldn't feel sad or mad because this person's asking me, why am I feeling this way? Instead of us just like asking, okay, how are the things, like, what are the things that are making you, feel this way? So I think that instead of saying like, they're just chasing it for clout or like they're watering down the way that they just don't know how to express their feelings, because in childhood, they've always been put on the defense of how they feel, because they feel like somebody's going to ask them, why are they feeling this way? You understand what I'm saying?
I definitely get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thing is, and I don't want to be anti, people expressing themselves, but
right.
I'm always very grateful for the fact that I've, lived across 3 continents, met so many people, been able to experience a lot of things. And what I'm saying is that there's always, I won't say 2 sides to the story, but multiple sides to every story, right? And this is how I go through life, understanding that I'm one in a billion humans on the planet, right? Everybody got their own thing going on, right? So I have to also be very considerate that although I am the center of my universe, other people are also the center of their universe. And that's how the universe works. When somebody asks me a question like, what's going on with you, right? And, I'm like, I'm not doing great. And you follow up with a why. And I'm not forcing everybody to really think about how other people ask questions, because that's unfair, not everybody. But I make the conscious effort to inquire, think at least, why do they want to know more? If there's someone dodgy that I feel wants to gossip, I'll just, find some shady excuse, right? If it's someone that I feel actually cares, I might share part of what I'm going through. And that happens with a lot of people. You're talking about, how your parents responded about you getting. It's just their worldview. At the end of the day, it's just their worldview. As an adult, you're responsible for, you're carrying out what's good for you, So you, as a person, you have to be able to take in information, stimuli from the world, what other people are giving you, and then as an adult, right, make decisions for yourself. That's what it is. So, but you have to do it from a place of empathy and understanding. Otherwise, you will end up being upset all the time, because if I'm already upset, And then somebody comes now to ask me why I'm upset. Then I get vexed again. Why the person me asking? It's just compounding my vexation. It does not help anybody.
So you are getting vexed because you are vexed because of the vex that the person have made you vex.
Exactly. Add an extra vex on the vex that I already didn't want to be vexed.
Now you are getting vexed. But what I wanted, but I think I like what both of you guys have talked about, and what I want us to talk about now, if we can just move into that era, is there are families that have legit mental health issues, and we need to understand that stuff like schizophrenia and some other mental health problems, they are hereditary. I think a lot of people don't understand that. And so, you have in families, especially African families, you will have, you will see symptoms of one of the person, you will start to see it like, okay, why this person acting like this? But the family try to hide that information. And you're in this family, because I know somebody who has some issues. We're in college together. Sorry not to put it out there, but she was Nigerian. She is Nigerian. And there was some sort of, oh, I forgot, man, I got 2 Nigerians up on here. They're going to kill me. But she, what I tried to let her understand was, you need to have a conversation with your family. You guys need to have a conversation, because what you are telling me, like what she was diagnosed with in college, was a schizophrenia. I'm like, that is, even the therapist for that, it's hereditary. Somebody in your family, and that's close bloodline, has it.
Village people. It's possible.
Not the village people.
Village people are out to get people in these streets. You cannot ignore this.
So see, EJ, you have to, okay, so here's my thing, right? I think a lot of us don't understand that we come from a place of privilege. Health is privilege. Unfortunately, it should not be privilege, because everyone should have equal access to health and healthcare. But because her family is not as knowledgeable, and maybe it might have been started from the village, we have to understand that a lot of the village people didn't have books or internet or any of these resources to be able to properly define schizophrenia and, associate how certain people are behaving and say, okay, this person's doing this. This must mean that they have schizophrenia. We on this call are fortunate enough to have like access to all these things where we're able to say like, okay, I think that this person is like, whatever their behavior is associated with schizophrenia. So I think whenever we speak about this, we have to take a step back and like check ourselves and check our privilege at the door and say like, okay, we're coming from a more worldly view, and like we're speaking to these people and we're telling them how to advise their family, but we're not necessarily, understanding like their family history, their family background, and their family culture when it comes to like access to healthcare, because healthcare unfortunately is privilege.
Context, right? Exactly what I was talking about. It's all about context, and I was saying a lot of those things out of just, to talk about village people. I don't really care about juju. But
juju real though.
That's conversation for a different day. Now I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, what I was talking about is all very contextual. You're dealing with people who don't understand. But what's important in talking about context is that, and people have said this, before, when you know better, you do better.
Do better.
I hope that everybody gets to know better in their lives. The honest truth is that we're all just human beings, a mix of matter and energy, existing in space at some point in time, right? It's unfortunate that people maybe that lived in 1800 BC had some issues and nobody really cared and they died. People in this day and age will have issues and they might die, or whatever the problem is, right? But if you know better, if you know that you have an issue or things don't feel great, right? Talk to someone. Your family people are not the only people on the planet.
Okay.
Right? If you know you need to talk to someone. Get friends. You can't just be fussy all the time. You have to make friends and be. Yes, some of you are just fussy. You don't have friends. You have to be friendly to other people, and be welcoming to them, talking to you, so you can have the time to talk to them. You have to be nice. Humans are social beings, right? I mean, that was a bit of a joke, but
Okay.
But yeah, I think as an adult, if you come from a place where your background is a hindrance, and you know that your background is a hindrance, try to evaluate your current state and look for other avenues to improve. You are not a tree. If you are stuck in a situation, you can get up, you can move, you can adjust your situation, or at least you can try.
I like what you said because it takes us into the next next conversation, which is still focused on mental health. But I want us to look at this situation. So we had Meghan Markle, who's basically is married to Prince Harry in the palace, the royal family. And this lady, and of course, we all watched the interview with her and Oprah, she and Harry, and she talked about her mental state. But you just said that, you give us context on, when you do have mental issues, you need to talk to somebody. If you can't get somebody to talk to, you got to find somebody. But we're talking about these people who should have access to every service in the world. And she was denied access to that service. For me personally, I am still dealing with the trauma that she had to deal with, knowing that I can get, it's a possibility that I can get it, but I can't get it. Anybody can jump in.
Why are you swallowing Panadol for somebody else's headache? Why? Help me understand.
No,
I
Glenn.
watched that interview, and this was a conversation the other day. I watched that interview, and I will not victim shame. I will not victim blame. But I think at the end of the day, Meghan did what was right. Right? She stepped out of the royal family. She went ahead to do what she needed to do. But let's not ignore the fact that the royal family is an institution. Everybody in that institution has nothing else to do but to wake up and exist. Everything is taken care of them. Everything. You don't have to worry about your bath water. I don't know if they gave them baths. I'm pretty sure they'd have to bathe themselves, but you don't have to worry about nothing. You don't have to think about what outfit you need to wear, what you're going to eat, unless you want to eat something different, right? Meghan was an outsider. I think the problem with Meghan was she went in with expectations based on what we've all seen on television. Nobody to be first things first. Harry was not in line to the throne. Nobody's going to be giving you tips on how to curtsy or do the royal wave. I watched that in the movie. I thought it was cute, but I mean, if one of the weirdest princess wants to marry, I don't expect nobody to come and teach me. And if you're not taught, you can't get vexed. Certain things happen in the way she laid out her story to me, right? I was just bombarded with, I think she had too many expectations of the royal family that fell short, and she had a problem with it, right? And then it compounded to wherever she is now, and I'm not her. I don't know what she went through. I can't say how much she went through. All I'm just saying is based off the little bits of the interview she gave. I feel, and it's unfortunate, it's unfortunate, and she had to deal with some of those things. And that's why I saw some memes after that, all the money they got, why are we worried about what Meghan and Harry are going through? I have my own theories around how their lives have been orchestrated for fame and fortune by the likes of Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. But that is beyond me to stay here. That's a whole different conversation.
Way above you.
Way above me.
But Zainab, chime in. What when you watched that video with the context of mental health, what was your takeaway?
Well, my thing is, of course, they're not going to allow her to seek help. It's all about optics. If the media were to find out that Meghan Markle was seeking help, I feel like it would validate every rumor that you've ever heard about the royal family. I mean, we've all probably seen The Crown and we've watched it and we're just sipping our tea. And I'm like, look at this drama. Look at these people. Ugh, white trash.
Basically.
So it's of course they would not let you seek help, which is unfortunate. But unfortunately, I feel like she had to have known what she was signing up for, she can't sit here and say she was oblivious to all the things that were going on. Even us, we read things in the tabloids and we're that's not true. But I don't even want to put myself in that situation to find out whether or not that's true, because that's just the type of person that I am. I mean, what's the saying? The saying is love is blind. So maybe like all those things were just beyond her. And she's like, you know, I just want to focus on my man, like forget about all of that. Like, and then I guess she got into it and she got in too deep and she's like, you know what, like this is not what everything was. It's not all like cookies and cake, like Glenn had mentioned, you know. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's just like, what exactly could you do about the situation? And I guess with her, she's fortunate enough to have a man that took her out of that situation. Because when we think about Diana, like, may she rest in peace, her man didn't give two shits. He was like, okay, you could leave. And we saw that from the beginning. So like, I think she has to see that, like, she should be really appreciative that her man like backed her completely to like just get out of that situation.
And for me, I think looking at the story or watching the interview and understanding the story, and me having to, I love the royal family. Let me put that out. People need to understand. I love the royal family. I think the fact that society looked at a family, chose that family for optics, for an example of what a family is supposed to look like in a country. I don't. For me, it's just a wild moment. Like, okay, so you guys are telling me that's a couple of white men just woke up one day and say, you know what? We're gonna just make this family to be optics. They're gonna go around the world, they're gonna go around everything, and they're gonna just represent the nation. And it's gonna be only this one family. I don't know if anybody has thought about that. Like, it's that one family. In order for you to have that responsibility, you have to be married to the family.
That's not how it happens.
I'm just saying, that's how I looked at it. I just look at it that way.
If you think about it, these things came from ages back, right? Where you had families that were really wealthy and controlled a significant portion of the wealth, right? And they evolved to become sort of crowned leaders because, right, you know, you have access to wealth that people rely on you for, you know, and then they use their wealth and their access and their power to continuously build. And of course, you know, as people are greedy, you obviously hand down your title and your wealth to your bloodline, right? And then it builds into what is considered a monarchy that rules over the people. But
in the sense that it's still a fact where it's a group of people who decided for that to be done.
So that is a very important point, right? Because with the turn of the centuries, right, and if you look at modern day, there's been a lot of divide, even within the UK itself, to break the monarchy and the purpose it serves. And the monarchy and the British people have had to defend the monarchy, saying that, oh, now this family brings a lot of money into the country, right? From their appearances, from the optics, from their crown lands, you know, so they do bring a lot more value than they expel. The royal budget has dropped significantly due to some of these reasons, because the British people were being upset that, oh, we can't have our taxpayer money paying them. So now, I think people have done studies to show that the royal family actually generates way much more wealth for the British people than they actually consume. So, but if you understand that is an institution, the institution Megan was talking about, is there's people working that have in that system. They have sworn to work in that system. Megan can't just show up. And let me this is how I picture it. Harry is not in line to the throne. He is not. So technically, if you are working in a royal institution, you know he's a royal, but you don't really give a flying F, right? You imagine those other dukes, the Andrew, the Paul, and whatever they call their names. You just know the day you invite them for the functions, but you don't really care, right? But his status elevated from here all the way to there globally, right? And all of a sudden, there's a lot of spotlight and pressure on the institution. Why? Because he married a quote-unquote black girl. British racism aside, I think a lot of that pressure came from the racial radicalization within the US, and the fact that US controls the world's media put a lot of unnecessary pressure again on the UK royal family that a lot of people in the institution were not really feeling. We like Harry as an individual, but in terms of this institution, he is nobody. But all of a sudden, this home girl has come and disrupted all our lives. We all have to be on the straight and narrow, having the biggest wedding in the royal family. she knocked them out of their senses, right? And the Americans brought that pressure, right? So that was the pressure she went into the royal family with, and then it created a whole bunch of things. I don't think anybody went to her room to beat her, to slap her, whatever kid told her that girls, they'll tell, yeah, but let's be fair, women are tell things to each other, they'll get vexed all the time. The press kept put out something, they didn't realize it because they are running their own narrative. They're trying to keep that institution whole. You can't suddenly now be the one with all the spotlight on us, then you want to go and be seeing a shrink publicly. Hell no. Do you know what kind of damage it does for the institution? Have you considered how many people will lose their jobs if they break up the British monarchy? Not necessarily that they can't find jobs or other things not going on in this world, right? But this is a unit that they're literally surviving on their own. Well, at least a historical inheritance, right?
Yeah.
And they're providing income for the country. And then you have all these people that work around them. Why would you want to break up that scenario with some bad optics? Megan is now a small girl. She could have called her ma, I feel some type of way. Please get me somebody to see. Even if a person comes as a friend from the States, they go in the room and she can express herself. She could talk to her husband. I don't know what else was going on with her. But let's not make it seem like Megan was completely locked. The institution, of course, will not want you to do that because it looks bad for them. And I have to understand from their side. I'm not saying that she was wrong to ask for help, but I'm also understanding that they were not going to grant it easily.
And I think what you said, I had to I had to think. I had to really get my thinking cap on because I think you said a lot. But for me and my understanding, like I said earlier, I think, like I said, I've loved the royal family. I love what they stand for. I adore them. Diana, of course, was like the first, but I look at it in the sense where I feel that it was unfortunate. I don't wish what she went through, like she explained, on anybody. But I would have really appreciated it if she had done her homework. I don't think she did her homework well to understand what she was getting into. I think sometimes Americans, especially this world that they have created, this society in America that have created for us, it's like, we have so much rights as Americans that we totally forget that in other nations and in other part of the world, they follow certain guidelines. And I think that's where she messed up. Because leaving from America as a Black celebrity and going into the UK and being a princess, it's a totally different situation. Because your celebrity status has left from 5 to 101. And now everybody is watching you. Everybody is looking at you and everybody is looking at everything you do. And I don't think she understood that part.
I also think she probably did, right? I think personally, and this is my own, just being a complete jerk theory. I think she understands that she and her husband stand to earn way much more being outside the royal family than within. Hence the orchestration with Tyler Perry and Oprah. She only met Oprah once before her wedding. And Oprah, let's be fair, was it was a statutory invite. She and Oprah not that cool. Like suddenly where did Oprah come from? Or how did Tyler Perry become their friends? Tyler Perry was not their friend. Let's be fair. These things were orchestrated to get them on camera. Watch and see how many books and things will start coming up because you got to pay those bills. Those expensive mansions are not cheap. She was in Canada here talking about she needed security for little Archie. I'm in Canada. Nothing happening. It's the most safest country on the planet. And she was not even in Toronto. She was all the way in Vancouver, where it's even safer than here. And then she needed. She was an actress. Her husband still gets some sort of stipend every year, or did she needed security for Archie? Nobody running behind Archie. This is Canadians. We're still under lockdown. They're not, there's no police on the street, but the people just, voluntarily are on lock. Like, what do you expect to happen in Canada? Then all of a sudden she goes to like, oh my God, security. She goes to Tyler Perry, and Tyler Perry provides security. Like, this is just too much. And all of a sudden, there's a show for Oprah. And this interview happened a while back. They've cut all the good
And so
parts.
that's what I think.
Just
I don't think people have context to that. I don't think people understand that that interview happened a while back. That interview happened a while back. The interview did not just happen. So I think so somebody said the thing we're making Megan out to be more powerful than she is.
That's my
Where is
point.
the chat about
What the
Harry?
world did.
So we need to talk about that, because I really want to focus on that for the few minutes we have, because this is my theory. Harry has been privileged his entire life. He's always happy. He's never lacked anything. When you've never lacked anything, it's easier for you to let go than for somebody who have never had, then have had. So it takes them a longer time to let go. The process that he and his wife explained, that Tyler Perry gave them a house. For me, in my interpretation, that's what he's used to. He's used to people giving him stuff. So that wasn't like you were doing him a favor. You were actually giving him what he's always been given in his entire life, stuff. So the process now of where Oprah now is giving them this platform for them to explain, it's another plus for him, because that's what people always do. They have given him his entire life. So it's really, I don't think people are understanding that, because for me personally, I think he wanted out. I think he really wanted to get out of this whole thing to live. I think he tasted the American sweetness, because Glenn, you're on mute, but if you can say something,
let me just jump in here. Harry, again, I keep saying it, Harry was not in line to the throne. You know how many people got to die for Harry to take over? Like, nobody really cared. Harry was partying all over the place where what he said, Rachel? Megan. It's not the first girl for him to love to in America.
Like, did you just do that just now?
Harry was partying here. I think he has taken his clothes off on camera. The most they will talk about it, they were funny. Oh, dirty Harry, flirty Harry, Harry, all those kind of things. Nobody really cared. Nobody. The only time it became an issue was when when Megan stepped into the picture. She took the status all the way up, and that was because of the American press that was backing her. And Oprah rode on it to get her a good show and get whatever licenses or deals they will have now on their heads to make them money, right? My bit is Harry is a royal, of course, just like you said. He's used to getting things from the day he was born. He's never had to even want. He's not if you can, you probably don't even want fish dinner when they are serving veal. You just eat veal dinner and you're happy. If you want fish, they will prepare it tomorrow and prepare in the best way possible. They're always there. There are people to cater to you for everything. Tyler Perry, quote unquote, is catering to him. Like, I'm sorry for the poor boy. Like, how does he survive out here? I think he has an uncle, the Queen's brother too. I think did the same thing. But at least the Queen's brother, at least he was it somebody in that lineage gave up the crown. He ain't got crown to give up. Let's just establish that there's no crown of his that he's giving up. He's literally doing what nobody really cares. Except the U.S. press.
But Zainab, I want you to chime in, because me and Glenn will talk over your head.
Right. I'm like, y'all got it. No, I'm kidding. I think that one thing we need to understand is that Harry is a grown-ass man, right? So when he said his grandmother cut him off, I'm like, you're in your mid-30s and you're talking about you got cut off? Get a job. Like, usually you don't hear I think it's when you're 16, 17, it's like, oh, my mom cut me off. Like, she didn't give you an allowance for this week or something like that. Or she cut off your phone bill because you're being disrespectful. But this grown man was like, oh, his grandparents cut him off. So now he's just going to stomp away and just go crazy.
I'm pretty sure
his mother left him millions.
Exactly.
Millions. Okay. Millions can go far if you are a white man. Let's just get this
Say that part again.
Millions can go very far if you are a white man.
Very, very, very far. Because as a black man, it takes you a few varies. And as a white man, it takes you all the way.
Not only that, like he's making it seem as if he was cut off from the world completely. Don't get me wrong, I don't know their circumstances, but it's not like you're ever going to be living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn like me. Like it'll never be that it'll never be that of an issue. But I think for him, it was just like, me live in like a 3-bedroom in Canada. This will not suffice because I'm not used to this type of lifestyle. I'm used to living in a 10 to 15 bedroom house with a butler on call, having 50 security guards. He was not receiving that same standards of life. And now it's like oh is woe. Let me cry me a river. And I think a lot of people just were not like falling for that because it's like, bro, you're a grown man. Like, take care of your family. Don't rely on your grandmother or what you like, you're brought up in to like, take care of you. It's just ridiculous.
But that's what I think that's why I think my situation, when I watch the whole thing and I look at the whole process, I'm just like, okay, what does this kid want? No, not kid. What does this man want? Because you are telling me that you literally left Canada and moved to the States because there was no security for you. So in the back of my mind is, so if they were not going to take that security detail from you, will we be having this conversation?
No.
Will we still be meeting Oprah? Will we still have to know the racist and the trauma and all the mental health issues that your wife had to go through? Will we have to deal with that? And that is the question.
Let me just say something. That whole security detail, I think Oprah herself realized in the pre-interview that you can't just say, oh, they were not giving you money. It sounds embarrassing. So they had to create, security detail for Archie so people can fall. That's the whole optics of what Oprah was playing. Well, I understand this media shit. Yeah. Sorry. But, it's the optics. That's what that's the play. Oh, Archie needed security. Again, I keep saying that Canada is one of the safest places on the planet. Yeah, and I'm in Toronto where it's supposed to be the most evil. So, but just like Zainab said, he was running away from grown man responsibilities. And his wife, Oprah and Tyler Perry, had a good plan crafted on how they could get good earnings for themselves, because what they were going to be getting from the royal family would not have been enough to support their lifestyle. Period.
But for the last few minutes that we have, I just want to say something. I don't know if the parents of little Archie understand what they have done to him. I just want people to understand this, because what they have put out in the atmosphere for that little child, as light as he is, because I think Black people need to understand that as light as he is, he will never fit into any compartment of being Black, because he will always understand that his family never liked him because of the color of his skin. When he among the too many dark kids, he too light to be among them. The Black probably the white people probably gonna say, no, you can't be around the color. So he is just going to have he already has a confused life because his mom is mixed and his dad is white, and all that other stuff that they have put out in the atmosphere that is going to connect this child's trauma, and I think it's just going to take him to a different level. So for me, I wish them well. Like I said earlier, and I will say it again, we don't downplay any form of mental health that Megan went through. We stand with her. We support her in every way we can. We support. We want people to understand that racism is alive. Mental health is real. There are things that people do to us that do cause us some sort of mental health. And before we leave from here, I just want to talk about this whole conversation about Sharon Osbourne on the talk and Sherry Underwood, because for me that was very traumatizing. I just want to say this.
Why were you traumatized?
When a white woman asks a Black woman, tell me what is racism? I'm just like, now as the person who's been Black, now I should come back and relive this experience.
That's exactly what it is, right? Don't give people air when they do foolishness. Just let them be, That's the exact response, when certain people are ignorant or portray just general broad range foolishness, just let them be, because going down that path with them, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I think I read something recently, I want to say either today or yesterday, where she mentioned she knows that she's going to get fired from the talk because all of these things that are now just coming into like, light of like things that she said to other co-hosts who used to be on the show, just obviously trying to gain the sympathy card. And I'm like, lady, like you and your whole family is just straight racist. And it's so crazy because
Exactly.
I remember many years ago, they used to have like their own family TV show. And I used to watch it when I think it was when MTV was actually popping. And they would just do some wild things. So like now as they like are all like grown and going on to their own little show, I think her daughter has her own show as well. A lot of the things that they're saying, it's just not really shocking, especially if you know like about like the whole entire Osborne family from, when they had their show on MTV or either MTV or VH1.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Late 90s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Early
Mm-hmm.
20s, something, yeah. I mean, it's Sharon Osbourne, right? They're a weird bunch. Like who still
Yeah.
listens? She's one of those people, like, if she were to say that to me, I'll just, okay. Like, you saw that, like, that response, what's her name? Whoopi gave, that McLean girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the response. That's the response.
That's the response. It's like I'm not, because for me
okay. And then
I
we keep
think
it
the
moving.
problem that I think the education that needs to go to white people is for them to understand that black people aren't educators when it comes to racism. I am not going to educate any white person about racism. You need to get on your phone, you need to Google it, or you need to go to the library and read books. But I'm not doing that. Because
I agree.
For me to educate you on that meaning, I have to relive that experience. And that's what I'm going to do because I have moved the hell on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's something that white people need to understand. We are not supposed to educate you.
No.
You need to educate yourself to understand that things that you say are hurtful, they are impactful, and they can mess up another person's mental psychic.
It's just not a hill that I'm willing to die on.
No, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna educate you. I'm not gonna do that.
Come and go and kill myself.
But this was the conversation, like I said, and I've always said, this is a platform where people can come and say what you want to say, how you want to say it. This is just great. And so I appreciate Glenn, I appreciate Zainab for coming on here and just, let your hair down and just giving us the opportunity. We have a viewpoints from Asatu Shanna. She said, my view is that I can control a narrative by leading a conversation. I take the responsibility without hesitation, and that's pertaining to race. And Asatu, I cherish you, I love you, but that's something I personally will not do. I am not educating a white person on race. If they're not going to read, that's their problem. They can Google all the stuff they can do. They can go on Instagram and Facebook and do all that stuff they be doing. They need to continue doing that.
We call Satu when I come. Every
They
time
must go to the library and read. Anyway, this is the conversation. My guest host was GLenn Okoro and Zainab Adebayo. I say you guys are welcome. We say thank you for spending an hour with us. It's been an hour and 4 minutes. We killed it. And until next time, you guys have an amazing time.